There we go. There we go. All right.
We are live. Yes.
We are live.
Okay. Yes. Hello, Syl. Good morning.
Hello, Beena. Hello, Beena. Hello, Beena. I always like saying hello to you. It's such a joy. It's
Yes.
such a joy.
Thank you.
Hello,
Thank you.
Norma.
Thank you.
Hello, Norma.
Yes.
Hello,
Hello,
Norma.
Norma. We are assuming that you'll be there. And hello, everyone, whoever is going to watch us live or will watch us recorded. Good mornings to everyone. And good mornings, Brain. Again, I'm a big fan of AI technology, and of course it is making our life so amazingly exciting, and of course wonderful. It is bringing moreness. For me, AI is not needed, was not needed, but it is
when
bringing moreness.
used appropriately. Make that caveat
Absolutely.
here, make that qualifier, right? Very
The
important.
disclaimer there, yes, it has to be. The appropriateness is the bedrock of every doing.
Exactly.
For everything. Yes. And of course,
I mean, it's dirt to us, right? Because we live by appropriateness. So we take it for granted because the philosophy of appropriateness, A+ philosophy, is all about being appropriate always. That's why we enhance awareness, discernment, understanding, application, so we can be more appropriate. But we need to emphasize that. We need to emphasize that.
Exactly. So again, anyway, come back to today's topic of the day, and I was it's a big big month. Today is ending for Muslims throughout the world. We were practicing, we were exercising, fasting for a whole month, and today was the last day, and tomorrow will be Eid. Eid is like a celebration of 30 days, ending of 30 days. It happens in the month of Ramadan.
Eid, not eat. I know they're fasting for 30 days, and you might think, well, after 30 days they celebrate, and the festival's called Eid. No.
Though some people assume that it is about that.
That's why I mention it specifically, because it's an easy. I understand. I mean, it's like okay, you eat it, maybe in your language, eat, it's the same thing.
Eid is something to celebrate again and again. That is the meaning of Eid, actually, that a celebration which comes, okay, and of course we do that. So we have this. So tomorrow will be the day. We will start as usual. Every Islamic festival. These are not festival actually, but okay, this is how people understand this. At least
A celebration.
Yes, every celebration starts with the prayers, and then after that, meeting with family first, and then friends and neighbors. This is how the whole Eid concept is. No party concept. No, actually, like, okay, people assume that, okay, you are going to have some sort of like, okay, adjustment, so you can do whatever you want to. It's not like that. It's a very simple thing, and it is first the prayers. Why I'm sharing with in my thought of the day to days, that once you acquire anything, I'm not using this, I'm just using this this whole activity as an example. So please don't connect it with any religion. In all religions, it's all almost same. So I'm not using it as a religious example, but just as a lifestyle thing. Once you acquire something, once you adopt something as a part of your life and make it your lifestyle, then you don't look for that, okay, oh, so after 30 days I'm free now. No, actually not. This is the same thing applies to when people acquire goodness, deliberate living, then it becomes part of their life. Then there is nothing, okay, oh, it's stressful, how can I do this? It's all seem like difficult before you make it your lifestyle. Because before you make it incorporated in your life, in your being, then everything is a stress. Otherwise, after that, once you make it your own, then it's like duh, what's the point?
Wow.
This is something I was just observing. Why people are not like, okay, really, okay, finally I'm just okay, free, and I can eat whatever I want. Mostly, usually, in my observation, 99.9% people never say that. They feel sad, like, okay, now the Ramzan is end. Okay, now, okay, the life is not going to be this much again, this much happy again for a whole year. They really, I saw many people, they do cry.
Wow.
People are crying like, okay, now the Ramzan is end. Okay, has ended, and now we can do. It is not because of any religious connectivity. I'm just saying it. Okay, happy eating, Syl. But it is because they accept it, they make it as it is their own choice. Once you make it, once you own and acknowledge your choices, then stress is something you will not think about. It's not
Wow.
going to. And this is how the whole deliberate lifestyle is all about for
Exactly.
me.
Deliberate living, very powerful.
So, of course, some people might be thinking that, okay, how, yeah, Vipul will have all the time in the universe, so he can spend all this time to do this. Oh, Beena is
No,
free, she's not doing anything, that's why she can, okay, she can
no,
spend. No,
no.
it's not
We
like
have
that.
full-time jobs. We have full-time jobs.
Yes, and we have actually,
Many,
most of them, we
not
all
just one, many, multiple.
continuously running around and doing all sort of things. We have
Yeah,
busy lives. Okay,
very,
we
very,
both have.
very busy. Yeah.
It seemed like okay, we have nothing to do, that's why we're just talking for 2 hours or sometimes more, sometimes
No,
no, it's not like that.
no, no.
It's about
I
our
mean,
choices and
right,
setting our
right.
priorities, and
Exactly. We
also
made this alive a priority because when we
exactly,
did, we stopped for a while when I was ill and it just
yes,
gets filled up with other things, So
yes,
it's not like you've got the time, you just fill it up. You have to make the time. And we said we need
yes.
to make this time. So it was a very big decision there, right, Beena?
Yes, so sometimes when I'm sharing something, when Syl is sharing something, and I'm so keen to even, okay, yes, I want to say something, I want to just, okay, ask him some question. But my life around me is so
Yeah.
happening and so many things happening, then I have to like, okay, this
Yeah.
is appropriate
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
So I have to make adjustments. Most of the time, my friends are asking for that, okay, let's meet up and okay, for the family gatherings, a lot of things in Pakistan, social life is very active between families,
Yeah.
especially,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
relatives. And
But
I
not
have
social
to,
life as in social butterflies.
no.
I'm just qualifying. Just to be clear, it's people here social life. You have to make allowance for how that term is used. You see? Yeah.
Yes, yes. So it's not like that. Yes, it seemed like that. On surface, anyone can assume that, okay, oh, they have all the time in the universe to spend on these things. No, this is our deliberate choice every single day. Every single day, we have to make this choice again. Sometimes just before the live, like, okay, are we going to do that? Okay, do we have other things? Okay, yes, but we will do that. But because we set the priority that, okay, this is something we want to do it every single day, and we do choose it every single day. It's not an automatic thing, no.
Correct.
Because we have to shuffle our priorities, we have to adjust so many things to do this. It's not a simple thing, but we love to do this, not because of anything else. If someone is coming, oh, it's a bonus. If someone is listening, it's marvelous. If someone is
Yeah.
watching later live, no problem. If someone is just saying hi, good thing, bonus. But all we need is that this time is we are spending for ourselves. I
Yes.
do enjoy these lives
Yes.
because it gives me so much clarity, so much moreness, so much
Yes.
awareness.
Value. Value. Value.
Exactly. And then many times the repeat backs, and of course the revision of those things which are okay, yes, in my mind, oh, it's all clear now. But I'm really, to my surprise, every single time when something comes up, I always get something out of it. So it's a very deliberate choice. A choice and a setting a priority, we have to make it every single day. Not out of stress, out of joy. Always. Always. So yes, this was my thought of the day. And we can observe it is not, of course, it is not uh, rare, or it's not we are not the only one, but we can say that mostly people do these type of things without being aware of what they are doing, like scrolling your phone. Everyone has all the time in the universe to scroll over their phone.
Exactly. But we
They
need to
do have.
do different things. We need to do
Exactly.
different things.
Exactly. They do have.
Prioritize energy usage,
Right.
impeccability,
Yes.
best use of energy, right?
Exactly. We all say that, okay, oh, I have books which I decided to read and I bought these things. Okay, hard copies also, downloaded versions on Kindle, audiobooks. But okay, my life is so busy, I never get a chance,
Yeah.
which is not true, which is not true.
I've been there.
In most cases, it is not true. Yes, yes.
We're going to read that chapter. We started yesterday, but we didn't get very far on capital D diplomacy. Right now, on that,
Yes.
since that's our chapter for today, if you look at screen, I want to give you the opportunity to practice some capital D diplomacy.
Mm-hmm.
Are you
Mm-hmm.
looking at screen? Are you looking at screen right
Yes.
now? Will you
Yes,
please
I'm
practice
looking.
some capital D diplomacy?
Oh, you are looking very good. I'm being adamant here.
All right. Well, that's not quite what I was expecting, but I'll take it. I'll take it. You like the glass? These are reading glasses. I don't need
Yes.
them for this really, and I don't
Yes.
even really need for reading most, except a little fine print. And sometimes on the labels on the packages we receive, it's tiny. I mean, it's like, man, how it's like crazy how they make small. So I need it for that. But also these ones allow me to see far. The other glasses I had, if I put them on and I'm walking normally, it made me disorientated. These aren't quite 100% right. Like when I move my head, the screen kind of wobbles. So that's not ideal either yet, but they are good for reading. They're very, I mean, I can read very tiny with these. So they're
Oh,
excellent.
wow.
But anyway, I thought I never could choose something like this from the point of view of how it looks. Although, if it looks kind of okay, it's a bonus. So obviously from Beena's reaction, she liked the glasses, right, Bean?
Yes,
You
yes.
didn't need to be diplomatic. I was just covering myself in case.
I just took this opportunity and then, okay, maybe to just turn it into a bit tease that, okay, oh,
Yeah.
yes, okay. But then, of course, I said, okay, oh, I'm being adamant here. I just said whatever it is.
Right. Right.
So, oh, you bring up such a huge point. I was I was amazed by when I start paying attention to that how can I be adamant without being rude, keeping my politeness intact.
Yeah.
How can I be adamant? And I was thinking that, sorry, it is impossible. So I have to choose either this or that. And then, of course, by persistence, I learned that, okay, no, it is possible, but some people have this skill, they can do this. Beena, no, sorry, I can't do this. And then, of course, keep resisting. And then I realized that it's a lack of vocabulary, precise, accurate
Hmm.
vocabulary, which
Hmm.
makes it very difficult for us to convey what we really feel and think about.
Right.
That was the resolution. And then, of course, I realized that that's why okay, words are always important. Were always important for me. They are magical things. I always try to choose appropriate words, but still, I was not. Of course, I didn't have that enormous vocabulary, especially in this language. So I start working on myself, and I
And
said
made a
because
difference. Yeah.
oh yes, oh yes. Because the lack of vocabulary
Huge.
makes you a bit clumsy in your communication. Not a bit, actually, very clumsy in your communication. And you assume that because the words are not coming, okay, in this moment I don't have precise words, so I have to say whatever it is. So mostly we get rude, or we become a people pleaser, because it's a very tiny brief moment to make a decision, and we do that sometimes. Most of the time we make decisions out of our conditioning, external conditioning of mind, that oh, you have to be nice, you have to be polite, you can't say this true. No. So the lack of vocabulary, or actually having a good vocabulary, precise words, in every situation, in any situation, makes you a better person. It is that crucial. It is not just being fancy. Having a precise and accurate vocabulary available, accessible to you uh, easily, speedily, makes you a better person.
Oh, yeah. Now, before I elaborate on that, because it's a very important point, I just want to say, see, Norma, I'm joining you. Also, I was more thirsty than hungry, but an orange combines the two. Yeah. So I hope you're eating joyfully there, Norma. Very good. What do we mean by vocabulary? I have a large vocabulary relative to most. I'm not
Yes.
bragging, just fact of the matter, right? Well, I know this from way back at school. We used to do those general knowledge, vocabulary things and all that. But for me, I know the meanings of lots of words, but I find them quite useless, generally speaking, in this context that Beena is mentioning. A large vocabulary in overall, like a large vocabulary of nouns, doesn't really matter. It is in conceptions that it matters, and
Yes,
particularly a large
yes, yes,
vocabulary like
yes.
a writer, susurrations. Who uses this word in their regular language? But it's a wonderful word that writers love to use this word in their writing, right? Many words like that you see in books, and writing is very descriptive, right? Just peeling a potato. Oh, not tomato, potato. Ah, brilliant, Norma. You should eat the skins, Norma. You aren't too healthy eating. Got to eat that skin. That's where all the nutrients are. Don't peel it. Anyway, I'm just teasing Norma a little bit. All right. So it's important which words we emphasize for our vocabulary. Yes, it's useful to have a general and a descriptive that, words like susurrations and there's a lot of them like that. I can't even name them all because it's not important to me. But conceptions, that's a whole different thing, right? I mean, those are adjectives, I guess, right? But and verbs or whatever. But conceptions in a whole other things. Like, for instance, diplomatic versus diplomacy. See?
Yes.
Diplomacy. You want to understand what diplomacy is, and from that, of course, you get diplomatic and all the variations that come from it. And not for chips. Okay, fair point, Norma. Fair point.
Sorry,
Fair point.
right there. Sorry to interrupt you, but right there, you made it more clear by saying that okay, it's not vocabulary, it's a conception. We
Exactly.
have to have really really clear conception
Exactly.
about things. So
Exactly.
yes,
Again, it's why our dictionary of power is called dictionary of power, because it's a dictionary of conceptions. We could call it a dictionary of conceptions, but it's a dictionary of particular conceptions, conceptions that add to our lives: patience, discipline, integrity, forbearance, and discernment, understanding, application, attunement, anomalies. Yes, thinking without thinking. What the hell is thinking without thinking? That's what you're trying to do when you meditate. Trusting without trusting. This is what you need to do when you go on a first date. Practical, practical, practical. Trusting without trusting, you go on a first date, absolutely critical. Yeah. So these are conceptions which not only add value just by knowing them, but add value when you apply them. Yes, power. No, just knowing about it's on your hard drive, no power. You got to unpack it, apply it, implement it into your operating system. Now it has power. So it's a huge shift there, right? It's, in other words, it's relevant conceptions. Now, we have this game in Way-of-Impeccability. It's called Name That App. Yeah. Well, I like to play with words, like fun. When we say name that app, I don't mean the app is, I don't know, WhatsApp, Instagram, IG, whatever. I don't mean those kind of apps. I mean, name the application in your life. Spot the terms, like when we're reading like this or sharing. It's very fun, and actually you can play this with where you're not reading it, just watching a TV program, and you can say, oh, well, there you go, superiority paradigm, there you go, alternative paradigm. Okay, you're going to be very hard pressed to find that, but certainly for superiority paradigm you'll have plenty, right? Well, okay, patience, you can name that too. When you start to train your brain to isolate those power conceptions, you start seeing them more. Right? Now let's apply it in this article. Right? Typically, Grammarly will highlight them because I capitalize them and hyphenate them, and Grammarly says no. No, sorry, Grammarly, dismiss. Right? But you see, force of awareness. Okay, interpersonal relations. That's not necessarily a power term for me, but diplomacy and queuing absolutely is capital diplomacy. And I have them capitalized. Goodness, I have them capitalized. So let's name that app as we go through this, right? Just do it for yourself. And you can obviously see adamants, yeah? Right? So since we've talked about this vocabulary, just real quick, just before we start reading, right? Name that app, capital diplomacy. Responsibility. Yes, I'm just going by the capital. Impeccability, unbending intent, goodness. Let's see. Capital diplomacy. Again, there's more capital diplomacy. Queuing. More queuing. Force of awareness. That's a big one. That's a very big one. Impeccability, integrity, unflinching integrity, unrelenting positivity. Implications. Look, I have implications here. Boy, the ability to see implications,
Sir, you're
massively
not
valuable.
sharing. You're not sharing the
Oh,
screen.
now you tell me, Beena. I like that. Not for chips. Yes, yes. I'm glad to know you're making chips. That makes me very happy. Actually, make me feel like some chips. I have some here, but I don't know if I want to eat them. Anyway, all right. So let's just go through this again. Right, naming the app, things for your dictionary of power, capital diplomacy. Yes, responsibility, impeccability, unbending integrity, goodness. Right, capital diplomacy, queuing, force of awareness, integrity, implications, unrelenting positivity, adamance. Adamance is pointed out. So adamance in the normal sense, we add a little bit more to it with capital A adamance. That's always, when I capitalize these terms and put them in my dictionary of power, I don't change the meaning of it. I just go into it fully and take the extra meaning, because meaning is contextual. Very much so, right? So when we really think it through, how does this apply in my day-to-day, in my immediate? How does this apply in my longer term? How does this apply in the overall, my life term? How does this apply beyond life? Oh, wow. Oh, very different, right? So diplomacy, when you think of it in the regular term, you're thinking of diplomats. But when I think of it in terms of care and consideration, and kindness and nobility takes on a whole different extraness, which doesn't change the meaning, just has more extra to it, right? That's what we're doing with these conceptions. We're going all the way to apply it in the biggest possible context that we can. In other words, to make it maximally appropriate, as appropriate, right? So you quickly see consideration. See, we get into these lead by walking backwards. Very powerful compound conception. Incredibly so. We'll see what Biella says about it. Capital U understanding. Yes, adamants to goodness. Adamants to goodness. That needs to be hyphenated. What a concept. What a concept. Adamants to goodness. Yes, you have this. Norma, you have this, Beena, both of you. Yes, not only an intent to goodness, but an adamance to goodness. Yeah. All right. So just this is a big deal. Let's see if there's more implications. It comes up again. Sensibility, capital S, sensibility. Sobriety, same thing. Appropriate perspective. All of these. Now, appropriateness is already in there. Yeah. So when you have appropriateness as the concept and you have perspective shifting, you put the two together, you end up with an appropriate perspective, right? It's like a duh. You don't have to have that specifically in there. Sterling character, right? Connected, capital C connectivity. See connection here. So all of this powerful right there, just in this one article, right? You've already got a bunch of concepts to add to your dictionary of power if you want to create one. The key though is it's your dictionary of power. So you've got to put your name in front of it. Like let's say Beena's dictionary of power, Norma's dictionary of power, Syl's dictionary of power. Very important. Yeah, excuse me. Right. And this is very, very important to put your name in front of it. This is very critical because when you go through these, yes, you can pull out what Biella has emphasized. That's in her dictionary of power. And this is in the beginning of the book to say the reason those are capitalized because they come from Biella's dictionary of power. But you can make your own. Like, neglect might be a big word for you. But again, does neglect understanding what it is? It doesn't necessarily, something to apply. You don't want to be applying neglect. So that's why it's typically not in the dictionary of power. It sounds good to understand it from a general learning point of view, but we want to put the positive version in there. Care, consideration. See, put the version in that you want to apply. If you understand care and consideration, you're automatically going to understand neglect. Yes, comes together. When we understand the positive, the negative is typically included, but not the reverse. Yes. Thou shalt not steal. Does that mean if you think of kids, when I was a kid, most of the kids I knew took things very literally. Yes. If you follow that commandment and not steal, you never ever steal. Doesn't make you caring, doesn't make you considerate, doesn't make you generous, doesn't make you kind, doesn't make you thoughtful, doesn't make you discerning, doesn't make you aware, doesn't make you understanding, doesn't make you loving, just means you don't steal. Very profound. Implications, see? See what I mean by implications? So when we put things into our dictionary of power, it's application that we want. Without application of our resolves or intent, it's all meaningless. Okay? So let's go through this. It's a very big article. So please read, Beena. You can read, yes, today? Beena?
Yes, yes, yes. As long as I can, I will read.
You read as long as you can, and when you can't, you stop, and then I'll continue.
Yes. Capital D diplomacy.
In the meantime, sorry, before you get started, very important things. Yes. Norma, I know you're having chips. Is it still too early for tea, or can I make you some tea to go with your chips? And how about you, Norma? Beena, would you like some tea or coffee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll make you some. Anybody else want some? If you're there, let me just check something real quick before we get going. Not yet. Okay. All right. Okay. Read away, Beena. Read away.
Capital D diplomacy. How can I be more diplomatic with others? Very good question.
Diplomatic.
Dear S. Yes. Dear S, most people have many sides. Our key, our responsibility, as I see it, is to interact with others in such a way as to activate their good sides. It's why impeccability and unbending integrity are so key. That usually forces others to interact on that goodness level also, as they know any other way is useless. I mean, let's say you had something you wanted me to participate in that did not have integrity. Would you even ask if you knew integrity was dear to me? No, they couldn't, as it would be obviously grossly inappropriate.
And again, Beena, please read
Yes.
for your own comprehension. I love when you do that, right?
Yes, yes.
Does that make sense to you right there? I know we've gone over this before, but I just want to check. Yeah?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And that was the question. It happened when someone was interacting with me and they were hinting something that, okay, they want me to do for them. And of course, it was not direct. But I was like, how they even like think of something like this? And I was horrified and I shared with you.
Yeah.
And in that moment when you said that, Beena, if they are asking you, it means that either integrity is something not part of their life, or even if it was, they have already compromised with it.
Correct.
So you have nothing to do with them.
And
And that like, oh my, how, because I was so puzzled that how they were hinting something. I was in a position to, I can do something, I could do something for them. So they assumed that, okay, so they were reluctant, super reluctant, but they were hinting that, okay, this is an option, but of course, and all that. And I was like, how can a person even think about something like that?
right,
So
right.
when I asked Syl, and he says that, okay, oh, it's a clear thing. They have already compromised. For them. It's not a
Yeah,
big deal. Of
yeah,
course, they are
yeah,
now they're
yeah,
trying to ask you and pull you into this. Yeah.
yeah. And two factors
Yes.
that are very important here by implication.
Yes.
Okay, you did say hinting that they were a bit obtuse about it. They weren't direct and straightforward, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's because you
Yes.
convey and put out a vibe and air and everything. This you communicate integrity. Yes. Now, maybe you weren't making a specific, deliberate effort to do so and be very clear about it, which is why they still thought they could even hint. Yes. But
Yes.
I think that same situation today, because this was long ago, right? I don't think
Yes.
they would even try and hint, right? They just wouldn't even try.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
if the point I'm making by implication is if somebody's coming and asking you directly, then you got to say something's wrong with me that somebody thinks they can do this. I must change my system and how I share who I am, because it's not appropriate to ask me to engage in stuff that doesn't have integrity, right?
Yes.
And secondly, if they're
Yes.
hinting, you can say, okay, I can understand they're taking a chance because they might not be that aware, but still, I can be a bit more
No, they
forthright.
okay. Okay, the situation was out of desperation. They were
Wow.
super
Wow.
desperate to get something.
Wow.
And I was the one who was in position
Yeah.
uh, to do something for them.
Right.
Okay, and
Wow.
and I
Wow.
was amazed that they got this idea.
Wow. Right.
So of course they were reluctant. So they were like hinting that, oh yes, there's some options, but of course we are not going to do that. And but I was able to understand that it's not like they are saying, oh, it's not we will not do this, but actually they were
Right. Right.
planting the seed and trying to say something. Of course they cannot say it openly to me. So then
Right.
even this idea was really horrifying for me,
Which
and I'm
says a
like,
lot
come on.
about desperation.
Yes. So then I shared with you, and you said, okay, and then you gave me two things like, okay, either integrity is not part of their life, Beena. So first,
Wow.
why are you in communication with those type of people? And the second thing was that, okay, if even it was, they are so desperate, so they have
Wow.
already compromised their integrity in their
Wow.
mind. It's already done thing. That's why they are approaching you. And that was the time when I realized that how human psychology works out of desperation also. So and then of course I distance myself from them, but also for the future, I am preempting that, okay,
Yeah.
even very good, earnest people, when they get desperate, they are no more their real self. And you
Wow.
have to deal a wild kind of an animal who is just hungry to eat you or anyone. So be careful with them. When someone is desperate for
Yeah.
anything,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, I'm not blaming them. It could be a very painful situation for them or anything, but for me, because I'm only responsible for myself, so I have to protect myself and my integrity. I need to limit my interaction with them because they are desperate, and
Yeah.
desperation actually really kills your real self.
Oh,
So
yes. If
that
you
was
want to
the
test
main.
your integrity, simply see how you behave when you're desperate.
Yes.
Yeah. Or
Yes.
or when you have need and are tempted. Not necessarily,
The
it's not the
same,
only way.
same, all yeah, almost the same thing. You are desperate to fulfill your needs.
Right. But don't ever be desperate to fulfill your needs. That's what I'm trying to
Yes.
say. There's always a way. I'll give you an example here, which I never thought of it specifically at the time. A little bit. Well, I shouldn't say that. I did actually. All right. Anyway, it was very good uh, confirmation and understanding of myself. Right. You don't know until you're in that situation. So long ago, when I was homeless, and I was with somebody, two of us were homeless. This was in Santa Monica in LA. Uh, and and we're part of the homeless community doing stuff. And like I was saying the other day, I was like vacation for me. It was fantastic. It was just brilliant. I loved it. It was so relaxing because I was always worked very hard, very busy, very stressful. Anyway, so it was a good book. But anyway, lot of positives. But the main positivity was it was an incredible opportunity for me to apply way of impeccability and to really see, to test it, to see if it was for real. Strategic living, deliberate living. You better be strategic and deliberate if you're on the street. Otherwise, you get taken advantage of. You're going to be a victim in short order. And I didn't just have myself to think about. I had somebody with me, right? So I at least felt responsible for them too. So big deal. All right. So now we're doing our thing and you're in the community, you're talking, whatever, right? Get to know all the different homeless people. And the great variety. It's quite incredible, right? It's not what you think. It's not what you think. We see a certain type of homeless person. Most of the homeless people you wouldn't even recognize. I walked around and with my companion and I pushed a double stroller. Where I put my things in and I covered them with a little blanket. If you saw me, you just saw a husband and wife walking with their two children in the strollers. You never know. They didn't dress like a typical homeless person. There's no need to. There's plenty free clothing out there, right? So you don't need to. Anyway, that's a separate story. Perceptions, what we expect, and obvious, and philosophy of opposite, and all that. Anyway, so now they're talking in the community, and they say, "Oh, like a lot of them did canning, which is getting cans out of the dumpsters and going and selling them and making a little bit of money." And said, "Oh, it's kind of a lot of work, really, for making very little money." But so they said, "Oh, signing." Signing, well, they even had a label and a term for it, right? Signing is when you sit on the side of the road with a sign, obviously, right? Well, anyway, so, you can make good money signing. Okay, well, I'll try it. So I made a sign, whatever, and I forget what I said on the sign. It was something true, but at the same time, so I sat there with the sign. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because I didn't need to. I didn't have to. And whatever it was, give me money for what? Why? I didn't feel you needed to give me money at all, and even asking, I didn't even feel that I felt I didn't even feel legitimate asking you for money. I didn't need any money. Yes, it would be nice to have, but I wasn't even close to, never mind desperate or need. I mean, yes, it's nice to have it, but it wasn't even a want, really. I had everything taken care of. So I couldn't do it. I was very happy that I could not do it. Don't compromise yourselves ever. People do things because they think they want and need, and they compromise themselves. Well, no way. So this is a very stark reminder, even though it may have been valuable to me or helpful, nice, couldn't do it. Well, many instances like that, just one particular one. Right. Keep reading, please, Beena, or maybe start again because we got
Okay.
quite far distracted from the article.
No. It's okay. Okay. Capital D, diplomacy. How can I be more diplomatic with others? Dear, most people have many sides. Most people have many sides.
Hmm.
Like not all people.
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
well, yes, I guess so. But Biella's always cautious to say all.
Hmm.
Most can be 99.99%, but there may be just one person who's got one side or two sides or three sides or something. They are. So,
So
no.
can we say like almost all people?
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Well, I'll edit in a moment. I was just making the tea.
Okay. Okay. So dear S, most people have many sides. Our responsibility, as I see it, is to interact with others in such a way as to activate their good sides. It's why impeccability and unbending integrity are so key. This usually forces others to interact on that goodness level also, as they know any other way is useless. I mean, let's say you had something you wanted me to participate in that did not have integrity. Would you even ask if you know integrity was dear to me? No, they couldn't, as it would be obviously grossly inappropriate. Yeah, okay. Just for my understanding, sir, this paragraph, it's a small one. Like, I mean, let's say you. So first she's saying, let's say you, and then she's saying, no, they couldn't.
Well, the person asking you, couldn't ask you, the individual. They, as in
No, but
any
she's
person who's looking to ask you something
yes,
inappropriate.
but in the beginning of the sentence, she's saying, okay, let's say you had something you wanted me to participate in that did not have integrity.
Ah, yes, then it must be you. Yes, good catch, Beena. Good catch, good catch. Wow, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I love it. Beena's
Okay.
becoming an excellent editor as well. Oh, just love it. One year. Yes, you absolutely, absolutely. I shall remedy in a moment. I'm just bringing your tea. Yes, your tea, Norma. Very
Thank
strong. I made you
you.
rooibos tea. I don't know, maybe you'll know
Wow.
rooibos tea being English. It's a South African thing, of course, but it's popular in England. Very
Okay.
popular. Okay.
Okay.
Keep reading, please, Beena. I'll fix it while you read.
Okay. To take this to its end, a chief component of capital D diplomacy, the diplomacy of interpersonal relations, is cueing. It's giving a dog a good name. As the
Oh,
saying goes, in such a way they will live up to it. It's having only the best of expectations and providing the environment for others to live up to that.
yeah. And see,
Ah,
I put that giving a dog a good name in quotation marks because that's the
yes.
saying. I don't know if you grew up with that saying, but I did, and it's still a
Okay. In the Urdu version, Mama always say is like, okay, even if you, the biggest criminal, if you treat them with
ah,
respect, they will never lose your perception of them. So
exactly,
they will try to live up to
exactly,
this. So always give
exactly,
them due respect. Always give them due respect in
exactly.
Mama's words.
Well,
Yes.
well, the other saying a little bit, yeah, in this case, due have to be, she's giving due respect as a human being, not
Yes.
necessarily
Yes.
as a criminal, right? Okay. So we are, Biella specifically saying, treat them as if they're more, create an environment where you're connecting to their moreness, and you're providing an environment for them to live up to their moreness, which is there. Yes. So you're creating a situation where typically you're behaving according to your nonsense, right? But now in this situation, you can behave according to your moreness. When you do this for people, they respond mightily to it because so many people never get an opportunity to respond to their moreness. Never. Very sad. At least I don't think so. So it's a very big deal, this. Very, very big deal. Anyway, please keep going.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Also, it's being conveniently unaware when they fail to, for they sometimes will, as they are entrenched in habits and so often can't help themselves or
No.
having in self-defeating ways. But we can make a difference, a huge one, and we can create personal interactive microclimates that prompt and stimulate and encourage and suggest to others how to interact with us. And the key here is with us.
Yeah.
She's very uh, scrupulous about when she's
No.
saying that because she's not trying to change anyone. No,
No.
she's not trying to manipulate because this is the real essence of capital D diplomacy for me. It's not
Absolutely.
manipulation at all.
Correct. Correct. It is a kindness. It's a moreness. It's a capital C consideration, and especially capital D diplomacy. It's when you really understand capital diplomacy, and she's just getting into it very, as condensed as she can, like when you do the program on it. You say, man, this is a lot of work. Like, holy moly, who the hell wants to go? I'm sorry, who the heck would like to go to all such effort? Well, Biella and the new nobility, that's who. That's their thing. That's why they do more. They do extra. That's what nobility is all about. Real nobleness. That's what it's all about. Doing more. Yeah. Doing unasked for,
Yes.
doing extra, going the extra mile, making extra effort. So this is in interpersonal relationships. Diplomacy, especially capital D diplomacy, it's not always needed. Some people are like brutally honest and blunt and all this. And yes, okay, it works, but man, it makes for a lot of hurt feelings and stuff. Uh, I mean, it's better than being dishonest, of course. But still, this is going extra, going extra. All right, keep going, please, Beena.
Yes. So just a reminder that you said that okay, you might change the first line like almost all people
Oh,
to
right,
most
right,
people.
right, right. Okay, okay.
Yes. Okay. This particular queuing is purely about creating our own mini environments in our own personal world, not about forcing or showing others how to live at all. That's out of question. We can use the force of our awareness. Oh, we can use the force of our awareness. Wow, okay. We can
Yeah.
use the force of our awareness to create this personal interactivity from others. Particular interactivity with others. Sorry. I read it all wrong. We can use the force of our awareness to create this particular interactivity from others.
Correct. From others, not with, from. That from is very important. We're already doing it.
See, I was reading a sentence like okay, interactivity, but my mind was still on the force of our awareness.
Yeah. That's why I now
It's like okay,
italicized that. Yeah. Okay.
yes. We can use the force of our awareness to create this particular interactivity from others. Okay, so will you please elaborate this?
Okay. So we are taking somebody and I meet you. Yes. And you've seen me
Yes,
do this many, many times. A new participant comes on, or even just not, they haven't even agreed to be a participant. Just somebody comes on to Zoom who wants to know more about whatever's going on, right? I relate to them as if they possess moreness, as if they are good, kind, considerate, nice, have integrity, etc., right? Now, what
yes,
happens? What happens? I've created an environment plus within my sharing in my force of awareness, I communicate that they are not only all of those, but also that honesty and self-honesty I take as a given, and I communicate, I create the environment. I provide an environment through this queuing that here on Zoom with us, you can be fully, utterly honest. And you've heard people within minutes, literally minutes, right away, right off the bat, they start sharing stuff that they would never otherwise share. And they even say so sometimes, right? See
yes,
what I mean? So that's what Biella saying here. From we want that interactivity from them to create an environment where they, of their own accord, bring it to us, right? To share in and connect and be more than they would normally be. Now, in the context of the Zoom, somebody's coming on like a potential client or whatever, right? But this doesn't necessarily mean it can be just in an ordinary interaction. I go to the DMV. I've had some fantastic interactions in a very short space of time while waiting for the computer to upload or whatever while I was sitting at the DMV. Yes. Or when I got my glasses. I mean, the lady who had to check and test it took a long time. It was like almost an hour. And when we were done, she was like, wow, she didn't say it. Well, she kind of said it, but she didn't have the words for it. But she said that was an experience or something like that. It wasn't just usual, it wasn't normal. So, and she was able to be her mourner self, where otherwise this just kind of work and boring and it was fun. Yeah. So, but not just fun, but she got to be nice, she got to be caring, she got to be kind, she got to be considerate. I created the climate for it. Yes. So I provided the environment for someone else, right? For them to come from, right? From them that they can do this. It's not just me. It's not just like, oh, we're interacting on this. When it comes real from you, it has more power to it. Yes, right, Beena?
Yes. Yes.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And something we don't pay much attention to. We assume that okay, we have to be okay, nice, considerate, and caring and generous with people around us. But you know what they say about karma.
Yeah.
Karma is you actually rewrite your karma when you are being generous, you are being kind, you are being considerate, and you are being appropriate. Most important, being appropriate uh, with people who you have nothing to do with, and you are sure that you are not almost zero chances that you are going to meet them again.
Yeah.
There, when you like okay, when people are like okay, when you meet someone in the lift, or the person who is operating the machine, or if on signal when you just looking, and so many places where you are sure that you are not almost that okay, you're not going to meet them again, but still you try your best to be considerate, generous, kind,
Yeah.
and appropriate with them. This is how you rewrite your karma. They say that. And now, okay, I'm not going into the details of karma here, but the point is, these type of interaction, when you are trying to be appropriate, when you are trying to be nice and generous and kind and considerate in those interaction, this is who you truly are, because you know
Yes.
that okay, it is not going
Yes.
to benefit you. There is nothing involved in it, nothing like okay, oh yes, he's my partner, she's my partner, I have to be this and that, because you know that there are some benefits, some attachments in there, you have to bear the consequences also.
Yeah.
But nobody is going to ask you to okay to be a joyful person, a patient one, like you did
Right.
for that. You could be like okay, yes, and it was your right,
Right.
you could say that
It's not
you're wasting your
asking.
time.
I'm creating the opportunity to volunteer.
Exactly.
This is a big
Exactly.
difference.
And
Not only
you have no
volunteer,
obligation.
but an opportunity to exercise what is your innateness, which you feel you can't because society doesn't make room for it in superiority paradigm. Yeah.
And you had no obligation.
That's
Yes.
the key. That's the key, right? No obligation. And you, the person coming. I want to touch on something you said to make this very clear, right? You said about
Yes.
kindness and generosity, just for example. When you are doing this, creating this environment, providing the environment, not creating, well, you are created, but providing it. Yes. Like when the people come on Zoom. Yes. I'm not giving kindness and generosity, which then they might, well, now I have to reciprocate. If I
Hmm.
start by giving kindness and generosity, which is my nature, yes, I like doing this, it's very profound. But in this instance of what I'm talking about here, that's not appropriate to do. Why? Because, like I said, the person may feel they need to reciprocate. Now, they, from their perception, aren't getting an opportunity to demonstrate that they have innate kindness and generosity in and of themselves, because if they give it back, well, yeah, but now I'm just reciprocating it. You don't know I'm actually kind, because a lot of not kind, not generous people will reciprocate with kindness and generosity because they're supposed to and they don't want to
Oh
look back.
yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
providing an
Yes.
opportunity to be your moreness means an absence of the specificity of, for instance, reciprocity, right? You're creating an environment to say, I do believe that you are more, and I'm going to treat you as more. Here's an opportunity for you to show that I'm accurate in this. Yes. It's no obligation. You don't have to. You can do whatever you like. But and when people get that opportunity to say, man, I've always wanted to be able to do this and show and initiate kindness and generosity and caring and thoughtfulness and consideration, discernment, whatever, right? They leap at it. It's a profound opportunity because it's so rare in our world. This is what Nobelia-Living is all about. It is a sustained culture where that is part of the culture all the time. It's not rare. That's what it is. That's why it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Hmm. culture as a category. I don't think I saw any, but all right, we'll look at it another time.
Yes, yes.
Please
Thank you.
continue.
Thank you.
Please continue. Thank you. I enjoyed my whatever I made very much. I hope you enjoyed your tea, Beena. Hope you enjoyed your tea, Norma.
Yes, yes. Okay. Also, it's being convenient. Okay, sorry. This particular, we create this environment. We did. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We can
No, but
start here.
I wanna read this. I wanna read this paragraph again. Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Completely.
Well, I'm in the right place. Yes.
This particular queuing is purely about creating our own mini environments in our own personal world, and not about forcing or showing others how to live at all. That's out of the question. We can use the force of our awareness to create this particular interactivity from others, combined, of course, with our unflinching integrity, our impeccability, and our unrelenting positivity, as well as paying attention to implications. It's through implications mainly we create this environment. Wow, 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 wow. Just. Uh, I'm really, really, really okay. I wish I can be an expert in this Nobelia diplomacy and capital D diplomacy. This is something really close to me, and I really want to. Okay. Adamance. Adamance is extremely important. It's one of the key elements of diplomacy. To be adamant appropriately is vital when expressing personal lines and boundaries. Less so with beliefs. Yes, our beliefs are strong, open to change if there is justification and reason to do so. But it has to be compelling since our beliefs aren't highly no, 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 no. Sorry. Yes, our beliefs are strong, open to change if there is justification and reason to do so, but it has to be compelling, since our beliefs aren't likely come by in the first place. Wow.
I know it's a very powerful statement. It's a bit of a jump. When Biella says our beliefs aren't lightly come by, sometimes they are, but typically there's a lot of that goes into it. So we have to be careful with beliefs, and beliefs are subjective. So she's being very diplomatic in saying this, because really,
Yes.
what she's also pointing out is to say, don't be arrogant about your beliefs and treat them as facts. She's saying that in a very diplomatic way here, right? Applying
Yes.
capital E diplomacy. Yeah.
I want to read this again, sir.
Please, please. I love it when you read again. It's very useful.
Adamance is extremely important. It's one of the key elements of diplomacy. Diplomacy. To be adamant appropriately, it's vital when expressing personal lines and boundaries. Less so with beliefs. Yes, our beliefs are strong, open to change if there is justification and reason to do so, but it has to be compelling since our beliefs aren't likely come by in the first place.
Right.
Yes.
Now, in
On the
brackets,
other hand, mhm,
might as well be saying, well, at least I jolly well hope so. I mean, if your beliefs are likely come by, then you got to rethink things, right? So there's an impliedness there. It's very powerful capital E diplomacy. It is creating that environment where, well, mine weren't deeply come by. So, okay. So it's a big point. It's a big point. It's a big point. But anyway, she's just saying that to change our beliefs, there has to be compelling reason. If your beliefs are likely come by in the first place, you don't need compelling reason to change them because, well, obviously it's not very important to you. They likely come by, see? So say they aren't likely come by. It's a very, very subtle environment creation and capital diplomacy and assuming moreness. Yes? She's just taking it for granted that your beliefs aren't likely come by. Somebody might say, well, mine are. Well, okay, then you don't need a compelling reason to change them. That's not so good either by implication, right? Implications. So it's huge, huge, very simple. All right, keep going, please, Beena.
yes. On the other hand, there has to be a complete lack of adamance when it comes to when it comes to sharing personal
Yeah,
perspective.
right. And that sharing is the emphasis here. Not having them, but sharing them. We must be evident in having them, but depends if they beliefs or self-evident sensibilities, right? But when it comes to personal perspectives, right? Yeah.
Yes. On the other hand, there has to be a complete lack of adamance when it comes to sharing personal perspectives. It has to, at all costs, be avoided when making personal observations of others and of their positions, perspectives, and especially of their motivations. It's, of course, best to avoid any personal differences when interacting where diplomacy is required.
Yeah. Again, this paragraph could just as well be a little subheading of judgment. Now, the reason I don't put it in there is because this anti-judgment thing that's come about, it's come about for the wrong reasons. Yes, and most people misunderstand it. If you don't have judgment, you won't have any morality. None, right? You have to have judgment. That's what determines whether you are moral or not, right? We judge a criminal. We say, well, that's bad to do criminal. You're judging. You have to. If you don't say that, then where's any sort of morality, right? Meanness, nastiness. If you say, I don't want to judge, by implication, you're saying, well, it might be okay. No, it's not okay. And I'm going to say it's not okay. I'm going to judge it. It's not okay. Yeah? So this is very important here. But this paragraph is when it's inappropriate judgment, which is when I am professing my personal opinion about your personal opinions. Like me saying, hey, I like to wear this horrible sweater that Beena doesn't like. Yeah. But you see my point. This is my choice. Yeah, you don't like it, too bad. There's no. You can't say it's bad for me to wear the sweater just because you don't personally like it. See what I mean?
Exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
you might say, well, if you're going to be on a podcast and you got your image as to, okay, then if you're my stylist, you can say this is bad to wear, this doesn't go well. Then okay, see, different context. So it's about appropriateness, obviously, of course. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
And by the way,
Yeah.
this sweater is not bad or horrible. It's
I'm
just
just
like
teasing
just
you a little
not
bit.
appropriate for the podcast. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all about appropriateness and all that. It's wonderful stuff. Okay, but since we're talking about the sweater now, keep going.
Yes. Okay. Shifting focus of the problem requiring diplomacy to its abstract elements, avoid discussing details. Details in stress-filled personal interactions, even if only one is stressed, are almost always subjective. The stress itself adds subjectivity. Those details can become severely distorted, and that's almost always known by the stressed individual on some level. To be adamant about incorrect details, no matter how much proof is available to support the correction, merely forces defensiveness. Defensiveness is also justification and justifying. And now you're in a mess. And exactly what diplomacy seek to avoid.
Okay, I want to make one comment here about what Biella is doing and sharing. What she is sharing is nth level sophistication. Right?
Hmm.
Now, it's difficult for Biella to say this about her own article, but when we understand this is ridiculously sophisticated. It's about as sophisticated as you can get, as far as I know. Yes, layer
Hmm.
upon layer upon layer, care upon consideration upon caring. Again, and this nuance and subtlety, extra moreness, nobility comes into this so much, right? But it's very condensed here, so it's you have to kind of really unpack all of this to get the full layeredness and sophistication. Very sophisticated, this article. Capital diplomacy in itself is a ridiculous conception of sophistication. I mean, just this little paragraph here now, right? To sharing personal perspectives, not having them, sharing them. Yes. And it must at all costs be avoided when making personal observations of others and of their positions, perspectives, and especially their motivations. Just the danger of this. If I say personally, I think your motivations are bad, someone says, how do you know what my motivations are? And you get into trouble. Now, she's putting this in a more general context. But how many times haven't you heard this when couples are fighting? How do you know what I'm feeling? How do you know what I'm thinking? How do you know what's important to me?
Yes.
Yes. See? Don't go there. Don't go there. You end up in a mess. And that's, that's what you're trying to avoid. Right? Consideration. Capital C, consideration. Actually, I think I must put that in there as capital C, consideration. Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, Beena.
Okay. I thought that, okay, you were doing something.
Ah, it don't matter. You can carry on. I'm just adding that there, so it didn't matter.
Capital C, consideration. Defensiveness and justifying our weird distortions come into play. When effort is being made to support an inherently indefensible position and the offered truth in play does not want to be forced, and indeed cannot. To adamantly insist on any contrary truths will only serve to entrench the distortion being made in order to justify. It's the adamance of the stressed person which is problematic. Thus, the lack of opposing insistence is a huge tool. They cannot push against nothing. Here we have to lead by walking backward, a powerful tool. If the upset person does not feel they are being pushed and feel they are doing the pushing, they relax. Their adamance is no longer needed.
Right. Now look too. Yeah. When we look at adamants, yes, in this
Yes,
paragraph, it's all lowercase adamants because we are talking about the adamants of the diplomat from the country that's, the aggressive, warlike, horrible country, whatever. They adamant, but they have the wrong kind of adamants here. It's not the same as capital A adamants, so that's why it's not capitalized here, right? Which is, in other words, their adamance is pushiness, obnoxiousness, etc. And this is what capital diplomacy is so often needed to deal with that type of an individual, right? Bullies, etc. Right? So,
yes,
so this is where leading by walking backwards comes in. It's so powerful, right? It's ridiculously powerful. Yeah.
yes. This
Wow. I
leading
love
by
this.
walking backward is achieved with adamance to goodness, to love, to empathy, to compassion, integrity, impeccability, complete openness, and an adamance about understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. I just
When
love
it
this.
is,
I just love
yes,
this
when it is,
paragraph. I just love this.
yes,
I mean, I also want to add it as a quote here to my quote file.
okay,
This is just, so much power there. Okay. This is BN, not NB, but BN.
yes. Okay, okay. So I have to go uh, and
Okay.
and take care of something.
No
And
problem.
I was enjoying this really. You
Yeah,
know
me
that.
too. Me too. It's a pity you have to go. All right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But I have to go.
Bina, how long will you
Yes.
be?
I have no idea, but I will.
Oh, okay.
I can just say that. Okay,
Okay.
maybe half an hour. So it is going to be
Oh,
long.
okay. All right. Well, come back
Yes.
when you can. I'll continue reading
Okay.
in a moment. You and
Okay.
I can
Okay.
personally go over this if there's not time to go over it again, because I
Okay.
really enjoy your capital R reading of it because it adds so much to this. And also just for us personally, but on a bonus level from an editing point of view, it allows
Yes.
me to see the comprehension that if the
Yes.
comprehension is there. Yeah, so it's
Yes.
very
Yes.
useful.
Yes.
I mean, not that you are the
Yes.
typical reader necessarily, but you certainly are also the typical reader. Yes, not all of them,
Oh
but
yes.
some of them. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right, brilliant. Okay, I'll
Okay.
continue.
Sir.
This, bye-bye.
Okay.
See you later. See you later. See you
Yes.
later. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye-bye. This leading by walking backwards is achieved with adamance to goodness, to love, to empathy, to compassion, integrity, impeccability, complete openness, and an adamance about understanding. I think I want to say there, and especially an adamance to understanding. When it's absolutely clear, true understanding is the center, the core, no matter what. And when that's accepted by all involved, we can have a beginning. Wow. Yes, then we can have a beginning. The acceptance of understanding as the goal is imperative. Thus, there has to be adamance in regard to it, and a dialogue can truly begin. Thus, there has to be adamance in regard to understanding. Yeah, I try to avoid it. Yeah, even though I'm repeating understanding here, doesn't matter. In this case, it's necessary. Thus, there has to be adamance in regard to understanding, and a dialogue can truly begin. Yes, no matter how much it strays, if the adamance on understanding is reiterated, and there are constant reminders to this agreement by all participants, this leverages their honor and goodness as the promise that's implied, and the promise that's implied by true understanding. So if you're in a situation where you're an arbitrator, a moderator, an admin, whatever, right? And you've got disputing parties, right? Don't try and solve it and resolve it and say, be calm, be peaceful. Start off with getting both parties to agree to understanding as the objective. Because the superiority paradigm defaults people into wanting to win, to be right, proving the other person to be wrong. And unless they agree to understanding, they assume, because that's what they're doing, they assume you're doing the same. So you can't have one side doing it because the other side thinks whatever you say, oh, you're trying to prove me wrong, you're trying to prove me wrong. They just assume it when that's not your intent at all. You're trying to get to understanding, but the more you get to understanding, the more they think you're trying to prove them wrong. And if they already started from a poor position, then there's kind of nowhere to go, right? So it's very important to get all parties concerned to agree that understanding is the goal. And then it shifts the paradigm. Now you've got a different objective. I'm trying to understand you, not to win, not to get you to agree to me, not to get, for me to agree to you, not to compromise. No, it's understanding. Yeah. Massive, massive, massive difference. I so often run into this problem, like in group when I'm moderating sometimes with comments. I don't have that long term, I don't have the bigger scope and opportunity. And so people get lost and they don't know where I'm coming from and they assume superiority paradigm. It's terrible. I just like, even if I just remove a post sometimes, people will message me, why did you remove my post? They appropriateness. They assume it's personal because that's how it typically is. It's in superiority paradigm. You do it for personal reasons, some value in it to you, pushing them down in some way, suppressing them. They literally assume I'm trying to suppress them when I remove the post. Dude, you're making an ad for your book or whatever it is. You know how many of those posts I get a day? Dozens. If I allowed them, the group would be completely dominated by this. Yeah, and then it would be a book, a group about advertising people's stuff, whether it's their book or their course or whatever, or themselves. Yeah, so appropriateness. You think it's okay for one post, doesn't matter. Of course, one post doesn't matter because you don't see all the others that I've removed. But now your post becomes the most. See, self-centeredness. It's amazing. It's amazing how people don't think contextually, think bigger. It's very important. Don't fall into that trap, people. Don't fall into that trap. Don't be one of those people who is just, oh, it's all about you and me, and all this stuff, right? See that there's more to it. See that there's more to it. Think a bit beyond your own bubble. And this is when we focused on understanding, you automatically start doing that, right? Now, if your post gets removed and you assume understanding, you assume sensibility, you're going to say, well, and this admin must have a good reason for doing so. What could it possibly be? Well, okay. I guess if everybody did it, it wouldn't be good. Pretty simple, pretty simple. But like I said, to get people to that point is actually very difficult because of our paradigm. That's why I keep stressing this alternative paradigm. The superiority paradigm is it's terrible. It just compromises everything and distorts everything, causes lots of problems. All right. Where was I? This leverages their honor and goodness, this agreement by all participants on understanding. And it leverages the promise that's implied by true understanding. Yes. Again, if we agree or disagree, typically people in a diplomatic situation where it's required, that if that's the focus and the goal, they're going to understand that, well, to be real, really what we're talking about is compromise. Most people don't like to compromise. They'll do it when they have to, but they don't like it. Understanding, though, this is a positive goal. Understanding has no implications about compromise or being wrong or any of that nonsense, right? Very cool. Adamant sharing. Most important to our efforts is an adamance on sharing, on making sure all are on the same side, insisting on only one side to our interactions, the side of understanding, truth, and sensibility, not supporting an us or them or right versus wrong mindset and system is key. A refusal to partake in those worldviews reinforces the understanding paradigm. I actually need to capitalize that. What I'm sharing is not just an understanding paradigm, but a sharing paradigm. Yes, this is a big deal, big deal. No, the comma does need to be there. And the openness to alternate views. Yeah, Grammarly, stop your nonsense. Stop your nonsense. And the openness to alternate views. This is core to diplomacy. If you cannot get the other person to be open to alternate views, I there's a dialogue in group right now where somebody made a post and the post is problematic. They are completely unopen to alternate views. They have a particular understanding of one word, just one concept, which they're not open to any other understanding. It doesn't matter that their understanding completely contradicts the conventional, typical understanding, and it's a very particular term, it has a particular meaning in physics and science. That doesn't matter. We just ignore all that. They want the meaning to be what they want it to be, not what it is. So this openness, if you don't have openness, then you're lost. But if you can get people to agree to openness, whether they want to be or not, once they've agreed to it via understanding, then they sort of get caught up in their own points. Because now you can't say, well, I'm against openness. You can't openly be against openness. You can't openly be against understanding. You might privately want it because if there's real understanding, there's going to be understanding that your position is untenable. Many racists have this, right? This is why they are so subtle and sneaky and underhanded about sharing their racism, because they know it's an unjustifiable position. They know they can't justify it, right? So we have to be really sophisticated in our awareness of psychology. Anyway, that's what she's saying here. Sharing. Again, when people are telling you what to do and they're sharing, in my opinion, for me, as I see it, which you see this from Biella all the time, it changes the communications. If you have people arguing and you're a mediator, right? Say to them, okay, agree to understanding, have open mind. Yes, okay, we agree to this. Also, every single thing you say, preface it with for me. For me, or you can replace it with in my opinion, as I see it, doesn't matter. For me, says wife to husband in the mediation, you're the counselor. For me, you are a complete jackass. Look at the difference between her saying you are a complete jackass. It's subtle, but in our psychologies, when she's saying you are, that's definitive. There's no coming out of that. That's absolute. For me, oh, it's your opinion. Okay, that doesn't mean I am a jackass. But when you say you are a jackass, that means I am, and I can't let that stand. I have to argue against it. If it's just your opinion, I can let it go. Very simple technique. Very simple technique. I might at some point in the future insist that all posts in group start with "for me" or "in my opinion" or "as I see it," etc. All of them, all of them. Because we get a lot of people who think that to be a coach or a counselor or to participate in such a group is to tell and preach and say things in this absolute way that's definitive and look how wise I am, I know the truth. There's no such thing. Yes, your opinion. There might be some things we agree are objective truths, but I can make a very big case as to why that is not necessarily so. And from a scientific point of view, if you want, it's in one of these books, M is equal to E divided by C squared, right? Matter is a translation of energy. Translation. Right? All right. Most important to our adamant sharing, to our efforts, is an adamance on sharing, on making sure all are on the same side. All are on the same side, insisting on only one side to interactions. The moment you remove this two sides thing, so many of your problems changes, right? Like for instance, good marriage counselors will bring in the kids. Well, I'm on the side of the kids. It changes all, right? And now you have leverage because, well, both parents want to be on the side of the kids. They don't want to enter the kids. Now you got something to work, something that they agree on. They're on the same side now, on the side of the kids. And then typically you get resolution, right? Very simple, very simple. Just understand the mechanism involved. If there are no kids, of course, then you have to get them on one side, which can be the side of understanding, truth, and sensibility. Nobody wants to be against truth and understanding and sensibility, right? So you are not supporting us or them or right versus wrong mindset, and system is key. Not supporting it's very key. A refusal partake in those worldviews reinforces the understanding paradigm and the openness to alternate views. This is core to diplomacy, to not only share alternate views, but to be adamant about creating the environment wherein different perspectives can be accessed and are seen to be valuable. This is absolutely crucial. Absolutely crucial. Adamance thus on simply giving alternate views a chance is vital. Just to give them a chance. Just give them a chance. You'll be surprised. Critical to our efforts is an adamance on communication, capital C communication, on insisting that the ineffectiveness and lack of perfection of the communication process be kept in mind at all times. Yeah, that is redundant there. On insisting the ineffectiveness and lack of perfection of the communication process be kept in mind at all times. Adamant insistence that misunderstanding is always because of poor communication is crucial. Now, this isn't necessarily so, right? But when you are adamant that it's always so, you give your disputing parties an out. Okay. Again, I'll use this of the divorcing couple, right? Got conflict. I'm the divorce lawyer or the mediator or whatever, right? When I say, look, we're agreeing to understanding, and also, right, we want to understand if there's misunderstanding, it's because of communication. Always, always. That's it. We're just going to take this as something that we're going to accept. Might not technically be so, but now what happens? I'm in this and I'm very emotional. I'm very hurt, and I say something really nasty and mean. Yes, because we insisting it's on communication. I realize, oh man, that was really harsh. That was a bit mean. I got a bit emotional. Yes, I can, well, communication. Okay, let me say that again. See, communication. It gives me a way in which I can fix my things that I said that I don't really want to say, but said anyway. And I can now change that and fix it, right? I can update and adjust because we've insisted that communication isn't accurate. Yes, yes, you did mean it, but also you didn't really, right? See what I mean? Communication a problem. When you insist on this, at least from a diplomatic point of view, uh, especially if you're dealing with people who don't have integrity, it will give them an out. It will give them a way to squirm out of things that they know they shouldn't have said and realize it too late. Yeah, all right. So yes, you don't want to condone squirreliness, but when it comes to like real serious negotiations, like if you're dealing with between countries and stuff like this, right? And some on They may not have good intentions on both sides. They may not have integrity on both sides, right? They're both into dominance and superiority. So you need to provide mechanisms for where they don't paint themselves into a corner. Very sophisticated, yeah, very sophisticated. But anyway, I don't know how much of this is going to come through in the article without, all this extra, but let's hope so. Adamant insistence that a misunderstanding is always because of poor communication is crucial. This emphasis of the imperfection of communication also implies that the underlying intent is always good. It's a very subtle implication, but when you push this out to say, yes, we know your intent is good, but you might not always be expressing that good intent. Boy, people respond to this in a big way because they know, especially like in marriage counseling, they know that yes, I'm deeply hurt and I'm deeply upset, and right now I'm mad and angry and etc. And I might even feel like I hate the other person, but truly in my deepest heart, of course, I still love them. That's why I'm so upset. Yeah, when people stop loving somebody genuinely and for real, they just walk away, and the divorce and whatever is a non-issue. The hurt comes because they do still love and they want to still love. Yeah, so we understand that, right? The intent is always good. And when that's understood, so much happens. Leading us to the next point of how we can make a difference to dealing with others, not with, to. An adamant insistence that no matter how much it may seem to the contrary, good intent is always at the heart of our perspective and efforts. The glue which binds it all is an adamance that good intent is the same as our diplomacy, as our capital D diplomacy. Yes, I need to put capital D in here. This is huge. It's huge. That insistence, adamance on good intent, that intent to goodness. For me, it's always when I interact with anybody who comes on here, I don't even assume they have an intent to goodness. I know it. At least I act and behave, not as if I know it, but because I know it. Because to me, it's an absolute fact. Absolute fact. Absolute fact. Sometimes people will maybe dispute it a little bit. Even say, well, not always. But really, in their heart of hearts, they know they have an intent to goodness. Yes. And it's what makes them so beautiful and so wonderful. Yes. Norma is a classic example. Just if you don't know Norma, go look at her timeline, check her out, Beena. You can hear this intent to goodness. It just drips from them. It oozes from them. It radiates is a better word. Oozes is not quite the best word. Radiates. It radiates from them, shines from them. Yes. So beautiful, so beautiful, so beautiful. Important implications. From the one applying diplomacy, there needs to be adamance on paying attention to implication. It's the heart of diplomacy. There's a lot of hearts to diplomacy. That's the way Biella is, right? What is implied? What can be inferred? What is intimated, suggested, or otherwise referenced? When we are skilled at implication, we really, boy, you now really start to hear things. And again, you, that marriage counselor, like I just said, the implication of that anger is that they are hurt. They don't want to show hurt, so they transform it into anger. Why are they hurt? Why are they angry? Because they love still. And they may have stopped loving. That may be legitimate. But now they are angry and hurt because they have to give up on this love to which they've invested so much. They may even be so hurt, so disappointed in the breakdown of this love that they've lost confidence in love itself. When that happens, that's one of the saddest, most hurtful, most horrible things ever, that you now don't believe that love is possible anymore, a deep loving relationship. What a horrible thing. What an absolute horrible thing. That's devastating. It's terrible. See, when we look at the implications, we start to see the real problem. Yeah. Of course, that isn't true. Just because this particular relationship didn't work out doesn't mean that there's no hope for you in the future. But they may think, I found the one, and now the one turns out to be horrible. It's very devastating. The end compliment, treasures. Oh, thank you, Norma. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Norma. Yes, you are wonderful, Norma. You are truly wonderful. This is so magical. I really, I say it a lot to Norma because she doesn't always believe me when I say it, seems like, but it's I'm not saying it because it's my opinion, Norma. I'm saying it because for me, it's truly substantiated and justified and valid. It's real, 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 real. I'm a super realist, super realist. When it comes to super realism, how do you not like awareness and love with awareness? That's super realism, see? It's like, duh. All right. From the one applying diplomacy, there needs to be adamance on paying attention to implication. It's the heart of diplomacy. What is implied, what can be inferred, what is intimated, suggested, or otherwise referenced. What by implication cannot be said. Now we're going into capital H hearing there. I mean, our whole huge program that's going into all these skills, right? Really in depth, full detail. Oh, no, Norma. No, 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 no. You're just very modest and very humble. No, no, there's no acting involved. Right. Um, and what cannot be said. When you start listening to what cannot be said, it's a big deal. This can be a big deal. What's not said is the person is so devastated. Like, say the person that they're with, this was the one, and they looked for a long time and got into the relationship, and now this one turns out to be a BMN. What cannot be said is that from the person's typically, well, I don't have the confidence that I'll find somebody else again. I never thought I did in the first place, and I got so lucky with this. Well, now it turns out that, well, my lack of confidence was justified because the relationship didn't work. The other person turned out to be terrible. In other words, I'm not worthy to have real love. They can't say this, but you have to hear it. Ah. When this is when we don't have way of impeccability. It's not just about impeccability, but it's about learning to critically think, be aware, understanding the entirety of your motivations, clarity of intent, see, all the motivations. When you understand all this problems from this kind of stuff goes away. All goes away. You have a foundation, you have a structure that is so profound. You have a toolbox that helps you to deal with all the stuff, and you don't get up in these false situations, false beliefs, and no hope and all this. And above all, we have to be we have to be adamant with ourselves in pursuing these threads and not neglecting them. In other words, stuff that's not said, etc. Right? And above all, we have to be scrupulous in accepting where they lead, no matter how unpleasant those destinations may be. This too is the insistence on openness, on flexibility, and on adaptability. Again, yes, if you truly want resolution now, maybe in a marriage counseling thing, you don't have to deal with this person's insecurity about finding true love. Yeah. But when it comes to, for instance, in a life coaching situation, absolutely. When that raises, if the person truly wants change, you have to go all the way where these unpleasant implications lead, these awful truths. And the person has to, at some point, face and deal with this awful truth. If you don't, he's never going to get past it, and you'll never grow, you'll never learn, you'll never change, you'll always be unhappy and miserable and sad or whatever, because you haven't dealt with the awful truth. But once you do, your life changes, and the awful truth becomes an awesome truth. Yes. So I keep saying this. Part of Way-of-Impeccability is such a toolbox, not a belief system. It's a toolbox, 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 right? Imperative to our efforts is making every effort to be focused on application. Without application of our resolves and intents, it's all meaningless. Yeah. And this is I mean, this is just part of Way of Impeccability. Yes, I mean, in the program, and when you deal with this, and you probably heard me say this a zillion times, hey, why are these things now doing this? Why is it now? Why did it do that now? And, this without application, it's all meaningless. Yes, this is so crucial. Yeah, well, let me get out of this inadvertent. Uh, yeah, yeah. I don't know what I did to get that to happen now. Is this insert? No. I don't know what I did to get that. And I messed everything up here. Dang it. Ah. blah. I don't know what I did, but it messed my whole paragraph up. And Adamant's on, see, it's still doing this thing. Oh dear. Okay, I'll have to get back to it later. I don't know what that is that I inadvertently activated. No. Adamant's on flexibility is key. We have to be able to express prickly and sensitive points with as much openness to possibility built into them as possible. As in, it might seem and it appears, adding words like possibly, maybe, perhaps, and so on, wherever and whenever a point is in the least debatable. Many points will not be debated when expressed thus, but there will be a counter-adamance if they are not. That's what I was saying earlier. When we say things definitively, people want to argue with them. How do you know it's an absolute? Yes, but when you say seems like, okay, I can accept that it might seem that way, or perhaps it's this way. Yeah. But to be very careful with absolutes. There aren't really any absolutes. Some people love absolutes, and they are locked into absolutism because it makes them feel wise and superior by implication. I know what's going on. I'm stating this in. It's again, it's a counter movement to insecurity. That's why they say things in that absolute way, because they want to be more sure, because they're very insecure. Right? This philosophy of opposite. Actually, let me add that in there. Yes, into into 50 ways. What's going on now? All my things are messed up. Ah, I, I I can't even get this to open. This file. Come on now. Here we go. What was I talking about? Oh yes, absolutism. Absolutism and insecurity. It's that again. This whole point here is why is it all caps now? Man, oh man, something is wrong. I didn't. My caps lock is disabled on this computer, so I don't know how that got to type in caps lock. You can go into your registry and disable it, by the way. Anyway, I'll fix it later. So we have to be very careful of this absolutism. It's a fantastic point of the philosophy of opposite, which is not exactly opposites, more or less, but it gives us a clue when somebody's being so dogmatic and absolute and definitive. Well, you think they're very sure they know what they're doing and they must have lots of confidence to be this way. No, they don't have much confidence. They're actually insecure. That's why they do it. Opposite, opposite, so much opposite. It's quite amazing. It's just incredible what you see when you understand this. Many points will not be debated when expressed thus, but there will be a counter adamance if they are not. That's very important. We cannot insist on our points and hold them to be absolutes. A stick point for most people is that no one can insist on the truth of subjective matters. Besides the diplomacy implications, expressing ourselves in a manner which acknowledges our understanding that we are not the final authority is simply a matter of humility and integrity. Now I really need to undo this, whatever I did, because I need to edit this now. What did I do? There used to be a little key at the bottom that was like insert or, it was a key like that which made a difference. Oh, still doing it. Oh. Did I now find it? Did I now solve it? No. Uh, I think so now. No, still there. Dang it. I think, yeah, I'm getting to where it was now. Yeah, it started when I tried to change this. It's still doing it, whatever that is. If anybody knows what this is, please let me know. It's some key that I press that does this automatically. Is it in view, scrivenings, binder, no, toolbar. I don't know. All right. Anyway, dang it. Where were we? Where were we now? Oh, oh, okay. Ah, thus we have to be. Where am I? Dang it. Sorry. I'm really messing this up here now. Uh, Even my scrolling is messed up now. Oh, okay. Right. Without application of our resolves and intents, it's all meaningless. And Adamant's on flexibility. Come on, man. Let me scroll. Uh, and Adamant's on flexibility is key. We have to be able to express prickly and sensitive points with as much openness to possibility built into them as possible. I read all this, yeah. Besides the diplomacy of implications, expressing ourselves in a manner which acknowledges our understanding that we are not a final authority is simply a matter of humility and integrity. That's where I was. It's scrolling the whole page, not line at a time. Thus, we have to be adamant that misunderstanding and misinterpretation are taken as a given. We have to be determined on getting this point accepted. Not that there are misunderstandings or misinterpretations, but that there could be. This is a huge point. It's the diplomacy version of we could be wrong. But diplomacy is adamant about never using that particular version so specifically. So if you have any sensibility of diplomacy, you don't even want to bring this word wrong into it. Yes? Because people are very sensitive about being wrong. And the idea of possibly being wrong from a superiority paradigm point of view, it's an absolute that you never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, acknowledge or allow yourself to be proven wrong. Never. Do whatever it is, no matter how much you obfuscate, how much you just get onto other subjects and divert and so on, don't matter. But when we say, oh, misunderstanding, misinterpretation, all right, that's more or less acceptable, right? Maybe I misunderstood, maybe I misinterpreted, all right. But wrong, no. Ah, it's a sad part of superiority paradigm psychology, but if you're going to be involved in diplomacy, special capital diplomacy, you have to be aware of this delicate sensibility. We need to pay attention to the fragility of our sensibility. Look how diplomatic Biella is here. Yeah. We need to be to our. She doesn't have this, but she's including herself, right? Makes it more acceptable. We need to pay attention to the fragility of our sensibility, on the frailty of our abilities, on the potential inadequacies of the tools at our disposal. Yes. It's the humility of Biella that she's aware that no matter how sensible she may think she is, there's more. Thus, we are adamant that we cannot trust our judgment absolutely, that we cannot trust our opinions and beliefs implicitly. This particular insistence is only applied to our own selves. We are thus clear about our humility and modesty and hope our adamants on them are contagious. Our adamants on them is contagious. Uh, 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 I don't want the whole paragraph. I just want that word. Hey, there we go. Will it allow me to type it? Yes, but it puts it in all caps. I don't have a caps key here. Well, all right, well, I'll just leave it for the time being. But Are we intent on not insisting these points? Sorry, but we are intent on insisting these points be shared by all, just as we have to be adamant on never presuming or being presumptions. This is vital. Our understanding is a safeguard against the kryptonite of diplomacy, which is assumption and arrogance. Yes, if you want to be diplomatic, can't go around assuming or be arrogant. Kryptonite to diplomacy. As part of this, we have to be adamant on understanding and communicating the problems inherent to assumption. We have to make sure we don't fall into its traps and be diligent in communicating when we are forced to assume. Assuming is occasionally unavoidable, and our scrupulous in pointing out when we have to, and that our assumptions are always suspect, goes a long way in communicating our intent to goodness and to emphasizing this core of our diplomacy. We are adamant thus about always giving the benefit of the doubt as much as possible, but we are insistent that the abuse and willful distortion will not be accepted or tolerated. We are determined, as a core principle of our diplomacy, that our intent to goodness will never be exploited, standing resolutely firm on our core principles and tolerance and goodness. We are unflinching and abundantly clear that we will not be bullied or taken advantage of. This too is an adamance on our integrity and impeccability, both core to diplomacy. This is really huge. Yes, we see diplomacy, and especially for people a little older, right? The failure of diplomacy. Look up pre-World War II, how the European countries dealt with Hitler. There was this, it was an acknowledged policy, it was called appeasement. Yes. And there's a famous thing where Chamberlain, the prime minister of, I think it was the prime minister, he's comes back from Germany, having put into practice this policy of appeasement, and he's waving a treaty with Hitler. And the headlines that he said, peace in our time. And I think like a week later or something, war broke out, right? It's a very classic instance of complete arrogance, lack of awareness, disconnectedness, unrealism, and this whole idea of appeasement. It was just idiotic with somebody that's a complete and total utter BMN like Hitler, right? He just laughed. It's like Putin. You can't appease somebody like that. They just laugh at you and take advantage of it. They think it's the funniest, stupidest, most idiotic thing ever, and they treat it as this fantastic gift to them. Yes, this appeasement. Can't do that. Can't do that. Hello. Oh, did I lose sound, Norma? Oh dear. Oh, it's back again. Okay. All right. It may just be temporarily then. Okay. Okay. Wonderful. It happens sometimes. Just the connection goes out, and typically it's not on my end, but it can be on the other side as well. So, all right. This adamance on flexibility. Where are we? Oh, all right. The kryptonite to diplomacy, which is assumption and arrogance. I mean, the arrogance of Churchill, sorry, not Churchill, Chamberlain. Well, Churchill had a lot of it too. A lot of people love and admire Churchill. A lot of problems to him. Yes, he did a lot of good things. I'm not saying this, but yeah, don't just assume because people do some good things that all they do is good. Fundamental flaw of critical thinking, to assume that a partial is the whole. Can't do that. Can't do that. Let's look at the big picture. Big picture, right? Very important. All right. Um, Arrogance, hoping that as part of this, we have to be adamant on understanding that we have to be adamant on understanding and communicating the problems inherent to assumption. We have to make sure we don't fall into its traps, right? And be diligent in communicating when we are forced to assume. I read this already. Oh, now it's scrolling off a page. This too is an adamance on our integrity and impeccability, both core to diplomacy. Where am I now? Oh, okay. We are adamant thus about always giving the benefit of the doubt as much as is possible, but we are insistent also that abuse and willful distortion will not be accepted and tolerated. Yes, we are determined as a core principle of our diplomacy that our intent to goodness will never be exploited. standing resolutely firm on our core principles of tolerance and goodness. We are unflinching and abundantly clear that we will not be bullied or taken advantage of. This, too, is an adamance on our integrity and impeccability, both core to diplomacy. We are committed to making an effort. We always pay close attention to tone and mood, maintaining them as positive at all times. Boy, this is such a dense chapter, by the way. I mean, there's so much here. It's unbelievable. So much. Appropriateness perspective, sorry. Keeping context in mind and an acknowledgement that it can materially affect understanding is a valuable knowing. We need to be disciplined with presenting the perspective that things can be appropriate in one context, but completely not so in another. Diplomacy requires an adamance on the appropriateness perspective. And when you understand this, this is so often where things get stuck, that we are debating the appropriateness in a minor context. You know, the one person is insisting that's inappropriate, but it's inappropriate in a day to day. But the other person says, yes, but in my life context, it's appropriate. Yeah, it's appropriate in your life context, but it's inappropriate in the day to day. Okay, see, both are right, both are wrong. Understanding, I understand where our miscommunication is coming from. It's because we are talking about the same thing, but in different contexts. Important stuff, right? Just in this, we pay close attention to tone and mood, maintaining them as positive. All of the stuff, right? Appropriateness perspective. It's a big deal. Oh, that's where we're keeping in mind and an acknowledgement that it can materially affect understanding is a valuable knowing. This is appropriateness perspective. We need to be disciplined with presenting the perspective that things can be appropriate in one context, but completely not so in another. Diplomacy requires an adamance on the appropriateness perspective. The ongoing connection to appropriateness is essential. The key and heart to it all, not just in oneself, but to all involved, because being adamant in keeping appropriateness in play at all times prevents getting caught up in bubbles for all involved. Appropriateness is a connection to a larger context, which is a key to diplomacy, as stress and trouble are almost always a consequence of forgetting the larger context. Absolutely. We need to be mindful of continually bringing the larger context to bear. And we have adamance on love, making sure that bringing love to bear is always obvious and in the foreground. Right, Norma? Demonstrating our love for goodness is the all of us applying and showing we love all indiscriminately. We have to absolutely and utterly have adamance on thinking things through to the end that needs to be adjusted. A vital necessity for diplomacy and how we can come to be able to have those alternative perspectives, how we come up with possible solutions and resolutions. The insistence on thinking things through to the end is also about going through this process together, not just by ourselves. When it's all done with, all involved. Oh, sorry, when it's done with all involved, it's extremely potent and goes a long, long way to removing many of the obstacles that stand in the way of awareness of what's truly at issue. That's our destination. And once we arrive, we can truly begin with resolution, capital R resolution, which is so key for dealing with others. Stress is almost always from inaccuracy and lack of possible or perceived solution. Thus, stress really is hopelessness. Wow, Biella. But thinking things through to the end usually goes a long way to resolving those problems. A simple adamance on and then, and getting to the end with and then is huge. It forces the stress to think and figure out for themselves, and often will show them to themselves how they are going up or are in a dead end. It's an extremely considerate way of bringing awareness to an issue whilst avoiding the pitfalls of presumption. Sterling character. Diplomacy is a persistence, a determination to get resolution no matter what it takes. We have to be adamant about our patience, to keep trying and trying and trying no matter what. Trying new angles, new ways to test and retry, refine and try again. That insistence on finding resolution connects back to our intent to goodness. The more we persist, the more obvious our commitment to goodness and resolution, to understanding and compassion, to tolerance and love. And adamance on listening is especially needed. Yes, it seems obvious when it comes to diplomacy, but there is more to listening than merely listening, lowercase l, such as creating the space for others to talk. Very important. That's not obvious when it comes to listening, which also means we have to listen beyond what they are saying. For much of saying is getting things out, not through expression or actual commitment to what is said, but simply getting it out. Simply just saying whatever it is. Oh, where was I? Listening to what's not being said. Uh, I lost my. Uh, that whole sentence is lost now when the scrolling here. Sorry, and when I scroll up, I can't get to it. Okay, that works. Uh, for much of saying is getting things out, not true expression or actual commitment to what is said, but simply getting it out. Simply just saying whatever it is often extremely important and helpful to somebody stressed. We have to understand this, right? Sometimes people need to vent. Don't take their venting as if they mean this, as if they lock to it, and don't commit them to it either. Let them vent and then start all over again. Okay, now it's out. Now let's really get down to it. I mean, it's so huge. Capital L, capital H hearing. That's why it's such a big program, right? I've got a bunch of different programs. Way-of-Impeccability is the core, and then we've got capital H hearing, psychology of superiority paradigm, and nobility. Right? So this is a big, big deal to understand how to truly hear capital H here, or capital L listening, same thing. And adamance on listening is especially needed. Oh, we got that already. Our determination to listening beyond what's merely said moves us past the words of now and doesn't lock us into taking them as the real and true communication. Much of what is imagined and thought about and felt and believed does not survive when actually said. And thus we have to listen past the saying of now. And of course, listening to what is not being said. Also knowing that what has been said is never the final saying. Capital diplomacy, you got to be very careful of that, right? Some people say things in such a way that it's final. That's where that absolutism is so problematic. They paint themselves into corners and then they can't get out. And it's a big issue, right? You can see this in group, sometimes. Right? It locks them into what's said. It's no good, right? Uh, we have to listen past the saying of now, and of course, listening to what is not being said. Also, knowing that what has been said is never the final saying. To not lock others into their expressions, and to be careful to not share ourselves in a way which binds us into things we don't want to be tied to. Much of listening and also communication is exploratory. We have to be aware that diplomacy is about exploring options and finding those which are considerate, staying connected. We have to be adamant on maintaining our connection to the all of what's going on, staying aware of what's happening internally, on what's happening externally, and all the points of adamance. And we have to be aware of where they connect specifically and how they connect. This is our commitment to uh, where is this now? Ah, Oh, yeah. This is our commitment to attunement, a vital part of diplomacy, as it's about connecting to the precise points of emphasis as those are happening. This connection via attunement is how all of diplomacy is applied, how we know precisely what to apply and when to apply it. It's how we set aside our personal perspective and apply only that which is appropriate. Attunement is the connection to flow, pattern, rhythm, extrapolation, and so on. It's know what's going on in the fullest way and staying connected to that knowing as it changes and updates. This is capital D diplomacy as I see it. The adamants to never stray from these perspectives within myself. The adamants to always translate that awareness, that love of goodness, to translate it into consideration. For there is the whole of it all, the all of diplomacy. It lies in being adamant, on being considerate, and this leads to grace. Consider it not just as an attitude or perspective, but as a way of being. Not just consideration of feelings, but an adamance on consideration for perspectives, beliefs, attitudes, history, context, and an adamance on being considerate of bubbles, of immersion in immediacy, also of earnestness and joy. Thus an adamance on empathy, on compassion. When these are foremost and our insistence on consideration of everything becomes apparent, obvious, and accepted, then we have set the stage for capital D diplomacy. Biella. That's a long article to read all in one go because really this capital diplomacy is a book that's now being condensed into one chapter. It's too much, I feel. But if I was reading it myself, I'll read it section by section. I wouldn't necessarily read it all in one go like this. So maybe tomorrow we'll do the second part again with Beena. Um, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. It's a very, very big deal. Wonderful, wonderful, Norma. Are you still with us? It's getting late there by Norma. Maybe she's fallen asleep already. Type Z if you're sleeping, Beena. I mean Norma. You know, my whole mouse is messed up. This is my mouse wheel is now scrolling this way. So my mouse went for a loop. Dang. I don't know how that happened. What is this? All right. Well, anyway, I'll just reboot the computer and that usually resets things. I don't know what I did to mess this up. This chapter needs a lot of editing. Anyway, I can't scroll, Norma. Well, maybe I can drag this down. Yeah, I can. All right. Let's see if there are any more comments. Nope. All right, Norma. I'm going to leave now. I mean, you can always message me, of course, or anybody can if you want to. But I'm going to end meeting for all, and I'll be out of communication for a couple minutes because I have to reboot the computer. My mouse is all messed up, all messed up. All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Beena. Also, hope to see you soon. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. End meeting.